I'd like to visit with you today for a few minutes about the new scoring procedure for the Fairfield County Junior Fair Barrow Muscle Quality and Performance Show. Hello, I'm Stan Smith, Program Assistant in Ag and Natural Resources for OSU Extension in Fairfield County. The first thing I'd like to do is to thank Dr. Steve Moeller, Swine Specialist at The Ohio State University, for his effort to create this real-world pork production project for our county swine exhibitors. As you know, some years ago, Dr. Moeller created the Muscle Quality and Performance Barrow Show, or MQP, at the Ohio State Fair. For the past 8 years, we've been able to offer that exact same program to our local swine exhibitors. With the discovery of the pork or porcine epidemic diarrhea virus that has killed more than 7 million pigs in the United States over the past year, for biosecurity reasons, we found it necessary to eliminate the weigh-in of our MQP barrows this year. As a result, performance or rate of gain will not be scored or a placing component of this year's MQP swine project. In its place, Dr. Moeller has developed a similar barrow program that focuses on the pork quality that we desired in past MQP programs, but also adds a component that rewards the pig that most closely fits into a marketing grid. This year's entries will be rewarded for coming to the show at a most desirable weight while also carrying the muscle and percent lean that packers are placing extra value on in the commercial swine industry. With that being said, let's take a look at this slide set that was assembled by Dr. Moeller to take a close look at what's involved when the commercial pork industry values pigs and how we will value them for this year's MQP show. First, it's important to note that packers buy carcasses and not live pigs. While weights on live pigs are commonly taken at the point of market and also upon arrival at most shows, the dressing percentage, or the percentage of the original live weight that hangs on the rail at the conclusion of harvest, is the basis for valuing the animal. There are two factors that go into valuing that carcass. First, packers have an ideal carcass weight they're looking for that best fits the wholesale markets they typically sell to. Those carcasses that fall outside that ideal weight range will be termed as sort and will experience a discount from the base carcass price the packer is paying on that day. The second factor is percent lean of the carcass, or the amount of actual muscle and meat that can be merchandised from the carcass. Factors that determine the percent lean of a carcass are the amount of fat on the carcass in relationship to the amount of muscle the carcass carries. Greater percent lean is rewarded with a price premium, while lesser percent lean carcasses are discounted by the marketplace. A typical industry-wide carcass weight for swine is about 75% of the weight of the pig's actual live weight upon arrival at the harvest facility. As an example, the carcass is weighed once the pig's head, hair, internal organs, and blood have been removed. To calculate the dressing percentage of a pig, we simply take that resulting carcass weight, divide it by the pig's live weight, and multiply that result by 100. That simple calculation results in that pig's dressing percentage. This slide simply goes through a few different examples of dressing percentage calculations. On the left, we have an example of a 300-pound pig with a 75% dressing percent that resulted in a 225-pound carcass. Next to that is a 250-pound pig that dressed 74%. That results in a 185-pound carcass. In the lower right is a 230-pound pig with a couple of different dressing percentages. A 73% dress results in just under 168 pounds of carcass, and a 74% dress yields 170 pounds of carcass. What trends do you see from these examples? The most obvious is that heavier pigs would be expected to yield heavier carcasses. A little less obvious is that lighter pigs typically have a lower dressing percentage. Weight of the live pig affects the product you have to sell for two reasons: because of total pounds you begin with, and also the dressing percent of the individual pig. On this slide, let's look at some factors that impact dressing percentage. Total live weight is the first one. Muscle has an impact. Heavier muscled pigs normally have a higher dressing percentage. Unfortunately, more fat will also increase dressing percentage, since that extra fat cover stays with the carcass when the hide is pulled off. The most desirable carcass weight, the weight targeted as ideal, can vary from packer to packer depending on the wholesale market they're selling product to. This example looks at the pork loin. When marketing bone-in loins, the size and thickness of the muscle are important and might be best accommodated by lighter carcasses. We also need to consider the size of loin that might best accommodate a restaurant where consistent portion size and preparation time are important. When we consider the size of the ham for various markets, again we might be looking at who's preparing it and how. When cooking a whole bone-in ham, the time it takes to chill that ham once cooked might be a factor that points to a smaller ham from a smaller carcass as being ideal. Oftentimes when working with boneless hams, the three muscles in the ham are separated for preparation, thus making larger hams from larger carcasses more ideal. When marketing grids are assembled, a term that's used for those carcass weights that fall outside the optimum for a given packer is sort. As the grid is assembled and values placed on various weights, sort weights are those above or below the ideal range for that packer that are discounted. You'll note in this example from Indiana Packers Program, the ideal carcass weight where no discount is taken is between 181 pounds and 235.5 pounds. Assuming a base dressing percentage of 74.5%, that means that the ideal live weight of pigs for this program falls between 243 and 316 pounds. Carcasses falling outside the ideal weight ranges are discounted on a per 100 pounds of carcass weight as indicated on the chart or grid on the left side of the slide. In this example marketing grid from Hormel Foods, note that the ideal weights for their program are lower than those of Indiana Pack, ranging between 174 and 229 pounds of carcass weight. Also, you might notice that the discounts are different as the weights fall outside of ideal. This again is a result of Hormel's overall marketing strategy and the opportunities they're able to take advantage of when selling any less than ideal carcasses they might receive. As our commercial pork producers select their genetics, finish their pigs, and choose a market, it's important that they understand how different markets value carcasses with different qualities. Carcasses may also earn additional premiums or discounts for their percent lean. As you might expect, three factors are the primary influencers of percent lean: total carcass weight, amount of fat covering the carcass, and amount of muscle in the carcass. To do the percent lean calculations, measurements of fat depth or thickness, loin depth, and carcass weight in pounds are used. This slide and the next one are examples of how the math is done to arrive at a percent lean number. If we look at a 210 pound carcass with 0.8 of an inch of back fat over a loin that is 2.4 inches deep, when those numbers are plugged into the equation, we arrive at a percent lean of 54.41% lean. As we look deeper into what affects the percent lean calculations, what do we know about the factors that can have an influence? As we discussed earlier, heavier carcasses are more apt to carry more fat, resulting in lower percent lean. We also know that more fat depth or thickness means less percent lean. As we'd expect and have already discussed, heavier muscled pigs, those with deeper loins, will have a greater percent lean. Let's look more closely at how those measurements that impact percent lean are taken. First, it's important to note that the measurements are taken at the 10th rib where the carcass is split. While this allows measurement of the pork quality, including fat thickness and loin size, if this were done in the commercial world, it would reduce the value of the carcass simply because it limits the ways the loin can ultimately be marketed. While splitting the loin allows for pork quality factors to be assessed, simply probing the loin for depth has become the industry standard because it doesn't require splitting the loin. Another method of evaluation is to simply observe the whole carcass muscling as it hangs in the cooler. This photo of 5 carcasses hanging side by side allows you to see differences in the overall muscling. While this method is not used in a pricing grid, it is one of the methods used in carcass judging or evaluation. A pricing grid for percent lean might look something like this, with 50% lean being the base and discounts being taken for pigs with less percent lean and premiums paid on those above. After assessing carcass weight and also percent lean, we're ready to value the carcass. That equation is a simple one while looking at the 2 grids. First, we'll see where our carcass fits on the weight grid, and then that value will be added or subtracted from the percent lean value found on the second grid. This result is added or subtracted from the base price that is offered by the packing house. In this example, we begin by looking at the base price of $120 per 100 pounds of carcass weight. Since the estimated carcass weight is 210 pounds and falls within the acceptable parameter that receives neither a discount or premium, we move on to the percent lean calculation, still maintaining the $120 base price without discount or premium to this point. When we look at the percent lean grid and realize the carcass has a 54.41% lean, we see the carcass has earned a $4 premium. When that $4 premium is added to the $120 base, it shows that the carcass is valued at $124 per 100 pounds of carcass weight. While not ultimately important for the purpose of scoring this year's MQP contest, it does tell us a carcass weighing 220 pounds would have a total value of $272.80. Looking here at another example with a lighter carcass, we see this one earns a $3 discount for weighing less than ideal. Yet because of percent lean, the carcass earns an overall $4 premium. All total, this carcass started with a $120 base price per 100 pounds of carcass, was discounted $3 on carcass weight, but gained $4 on percent lean for a net value of $121 per 100 pounds of carcass. Again, while not a factor in the MQP contest, the result is a carcass with a total value of $205.94. Which carcass offered the best price per pound? It's the one on the right that didn't take the carcass weight discount. This grid price value will be weighted as 70% of the total score for the purpose of placing in the MQP Barrow evaluation program. The other 30% of the scoring will result from the muscle quality evaluation, much as it has been in the past. More detail on the entire scoring process for this year's MQP program may be found on our website under County News or directly from the web link go.osu.edu/tagpigs. Paper copies may also be picked up from 4-H and FFA advisors or at the OSU Extension Office. For more details, feel free to contact MQP Show Superintendent Brian Black or Stan Smith at the Extension Office.